In today's video, we're gonna see if we can make a magnetic sand by crushing up powerful magnets in a blender. A while ago, I saw a video with a bunch of powerful magnets asking, will they blend in a powerful blender? They had a string of those little neodymium magnets that look like BBs, and they lowered it down into the blender and blended it into powder. It was pretty cool, and we saw a lot of sparks in that video, but I was kind of disappointed that they didn't show anything about what was left. So we're gonna try blending up some magnets, see if we can replicate that same effect, and then we want to take a look at that stuff. Here's the basic idea. We've got a bunch of powerful neodymium magnets, and we're going to try and blend those up into a fine powder and then see what that powder's like. Is it still magnetic? Will it hold itself into whatever shape we put it into? Can we use it to make magnetic slime? So we're gonna try breaking up and blending up a bunch of these types of magnets and see what's left. I'm really hoping that the blender holds up as well as it's supposed to, because these things getting hit by the blades at high speeds, I'm hoping we don't have it shatter on us. Most of these silvery magnets I have here, the really strong ones, are what are called neodymium magnets. And they are largely comprised of neodymium. That's an atomic element. They also have iron and boron in them. An interesting thing about these, though, is they actually can be fairly brittle. Now, I don't know if this will break right now, but sometimes these magnets are powerful enough that just pulling themselves together, they can actually break on impact. So I'm gonna see if I can get that to happen. Shatter perfectly. Magnet absolutely shattered on contact. I wasn't sure if it was going to, but it did, and that's just because these magnets pull on each other so hard, slams together with a lot of surface on surface contact. The whole thing is just taking a lot of impact. It would have exploded, except all of those pieces are still being attracted down to the magnet, so it doesn't have enough force to go anywhere. As a first test to see if this will sort of powderize, let's just take this over to our anvil and take a hammer to it and see what that does. After going at it with a hammer, this is what is left of one of these magnet squares. So we've got the same amount of material here, clearly changed form. So it does kind of feel like sand, and you can see that it's holding itself together. So is it still magnetic? I'm gonna have to say it's still somewhat magnetic, because I can pull it apart easily, but like it doesn't lose pieces. There's not sand falling off of it. I can just smush it easily. I can pull it apart easily. Let's see how it compares in terms of magnetic strength. I've got a steel plate here. This magnet on its edge, still strong enough to lift up the plate. If it would stay centered, there we go. In comparison, our magnet sand, not even strong enough to hold itself to the plate. Maybe if we flatten it out so it's more like the original shape. Oh, you know what? That actually helped. It's definitely still weak, but it now can hold itself up, and that's probably just it has more surface area of the sand that's actually in contact with the plate. So we have an interesting proof of concept. I think the blender is going to do a better job than the hammer and anvil of crushing this stuff into an even sand-like powder. So we're going to try that now. And boy, this is going to be loud. I'm going to start off with some of these fairly small magnets. That seems like the better way to go. I'm going to take magnets in the top. This way, when I remove these at the top, those ones should fall down into the spinning blender blades. Well, it blended them. That does not look like it was really good for our blades. That's kind of chewed up in there. It also stopped blending after just a few seconds, and I think that the magnets are being attracted to the base just enough that it's holding down underneath the blades, and so it's just spinning and not much is happening. So we're just gonna have to add more magnets into it. Well, we've got quite a bit of blended magnets here, but it's actually in larger pieces than when we hit it with the hammer. It just ends up getting stuck down to the bottom, and I think it's just too attracted to parts of the bottom of the blender, and it's not really getting pulled up by any air current created by those blades. So we're gonna keep trying to blend this up even more and see what we get out of it. I like this. Now we're really getting somewhere. We're getting it small and blended up. I'm just gonna keep doing this a few more times and see how blended this can get. Looking pretty good. I'm liking this stuff. So I've now run this through the blender 5 times or so. And while it's not like 100% perfectly smooth, it's doing pretty well. It does feel like there's one little chunk right here. So this is what I was hoping to see after the video of the magnets being blended up. Yes, it blends up the magnets pretty well, but I wanted to see what's left. So here we've got a larger quantity of this stuff. We smashed them up with a hammer, and now we smashed it up with a blender, and this is what we've got. Like, it's not falling apart like a blob of sand would, and this is completely dry. It's just holding itself together. So it does have some magnetic attraction to itself. Let's try our steel plate test again. Try and give it a nice flat surface. That helped bond a little bit more last time, I think. Oh, there we go, enough attraction to hold it upside down. Let's see how the attraction is to an actual magnet though. So the powderized magnet is attracted to the magnet, so it's still ferromagnetic. It still can be attracted by a permanent magnet, but it itself has lost a lot of its magnetic power. Magnets can lose their magnetism from heavy impact, and of course when you break them up so small, the polarity is not going to be all uniform and just facing north and south the way they are when they're a solid piece. Even if each of these tiny little pieces still holds its own magnetic charge, they're now all jumbled up and pointing in different directions, so it's not acting as a single magnet, and the magnetic fields can actually interfere with each other or cancel each other out to some degree. So for this to have the same amount of magnetic power as the whole magnets would have been very unexpected anyway. Earlier I said we might try this. I'm going to mix up a batch of slime and see if we can mix this magnet powder into the slime and make a little bit of magnetic slime like that. All right, we've got ourselves a little batch of clear slime here. Let's see if we can't mix in some of our magnet powder. This is interesting because of how much the magnet sand kind of likes to stick to itself. It's having a very hard time mixing up inside the slime because it doesn't like to separate out much. Well, we've got some attraction to our very powerful magnet here. Looks like we kind of just have a blob of the sand surrounded by the slime. It's not very evenly mixed in. And of course the magnet is very attracted to the steel plate underneath it. It is attracted to it, but I think it's just pulling all of the magnet stuff through. Yep, there we go. This is like how to remove your magnet sand from your slime rather than making magnetic slime. Here's our original magnetic putty we made with some magnetite powder. Compare how that gets attracted to the magnet here. It's not pulling anything out, it's just pulling all of it together. I could watch that all day. That is like the coolest thing that you can do with magnets, I think. So making our magnet sand, our DIY magnet sand, into a magnetic slime, it doesn't work as well as when we use the artificially created magnetite. This stuff doesn't mix into the slime very well at all. So I gotta say it's not as effective, but it is kind of cool to watch it get drawn over by a magnet and even just pull some of the magnet dust right out of it. One more thing I wanted to try, I wanted to see what happens if we heat this stuff up. Will it just turn into metallic sand? Will it lose all of its ability to hold itself together? All right, little torch. Let's see what you can do. Ooh, got a lot of cool sparks coming off of that. I like that. Glowing orange here at the top. That went really quickly. It is holding itself together quite a bit less. Be any more cohesive once it cools down a bit. You can see that this is just not the same. Here's before we heated it up. It stays together in this pile, and even if we try and separate it out into separate little sand, it just doesn't do it. And now that we've heated it up, nothing, it doesn't hold together even a little bit, just dust. That was sparking a lot as I smashed it, so I'm gonna try heating it up again, and then while it's still hot, I'm gonna hit it with a hammer. It's now flatter and it's in contact with this steel plate, so it's not heating up as evenly or as easily as it was before. You know what, I'm just gonna move on up to the big boy torch. Ha! That was great. That was a cool little shower of sparks. That's a cool shower of sparks too, holy cow. That is so cool. Three, two, one. This is a cool little tool that lets you actually see magnetic fields. It's pretty neat. It's got some magnetic powder in this sheet and it gets attracted around. And when you bring a magnet into the presence of it, you can actually watch its magnetic field show up. If I bring a much stronger magnet near it, the effect is accentuated quite a bit. Very powerful magnetic field. And when we compare that to our magnetic sand, it shows up a little bit. Very disjointed, it's not uniform at all. Even if it still has its magnetism, it's not facing all one direction, so it's not uniform. It doesn't create one magnetic field, it's just creating thousands of tiny magnetic fields that are often interfering with each other. Guys, that's not all. We've always got more for you to see. This box up at the top is going to take you directly to our last video. You should go check that out. The other box shows you what YouTube thinks you should be watching next. If you hit this bomb here in the middle, you'll be subscribed to the channel. That way you're never going to miss out on a cool video. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we'll see you in the next one. Talk to you then.